In this video, I will show you a simple exercise that you can use to check whether your horse really respects you or not. Then you will learn how to gain your horse's respect and how to make sure that your horse pays attention to you and doesn't get scared by the surroundings. Do you know what's needed to get your horse to pay attention to you and to what you want from him? And do you know how to make sure that your horse enjoys being around you and never really thinks about whether he can kick you or even bite you? If you think that being nice to your horse will make him like you, then you are wrong. However, even worse it is to be nasty to your horse. What you really need is to be fair and teach your horse to listen to your simple requests. It is always easier to get your horse to do something simple, and as your horse learns that doing what you ask is not going to hurt him, when you start asking your horse to do more complicated things, it's gonna get much easier. You need to start with the simple things and then build up on it. In this video, I will show you how you can use the time that you spend cleaning your horse to improve the way he listens to you in every other situation. One of the first things that every horse should be capable of is to just stand still while he's tied to something. However, always can happen that for some reason your horse will get scared and you will need to untie him very quickly. Right now you can see in slow motion the way I tie a knot that you can untie just by pulling the end of the rein. I basically create a loop through which I make another loop. Maybe you already know this, but I still want to show you how to do it just because, for example, especially during transport, I would never tie my horse using a regular knot. When I'm cleaning a horse that is tied to something, as you can see it in the video, I always want him to stay in one spot, without stepping forwards or backwards. When you want your horse to pay attention to you and to listen to you, you also need to be paying all your attention to your horse. You can't really want your horse to pay attention to you while you are not paying attention to him. You can see in the video that as soon as I stopped paying attention to my horse, she immediately stepped away. Now I want my horse to stand still in one spot, and he moves somewhere. Even if it's just one step, I always back my horse to the place where I want him to be standing. Even if my horse does it 10 times, I always put him back to where he is supposed to be standing. Then when my horse is able to stand still while he's tied to something, I can start wanting a bit more. Now I want my horse to stand still untied in his stall. Every time my horse can do something well already, I move on and want something more. Now the principle stays the same as it was when I wanted my horse to stand still while he was tied to something. I put my horse in a place where I want him to be standing, and if he moves somewhere, I always put him back to the spot where he's supposed to be. Even though I can just walk around my horse while I clean him, sometimes I can change the place where I want him to be standing. But only when I want, not when my horse moves by himself. Stall is the ideal place to start teaching your horse to respect what you want, even when you can't use your rein to make him do anything. In a small space you have good control over your horse and you can always easily correct him when he does something that you don't want him to be doing. Next thing that I want from my horse is to react on my small pressure. I want to be able to control my horse using the least amounts of pressure possible while riding on him. And the best place to start teaching my horse to react on small amounts of pressure is while working with him from the ground or just taking everyday care of him. Now I will show you what you should not be doing. Teaching your horse to react on your pressure doesn't mean trying to push him. If your horse doesn't move away from your pressure, just use edge of a brush or something pointy to make your horse move. You always want your horse to move away from light pressure. Don't turn it into a wrestling contest. Have you thought about how can the horse tell when he should move and when I'm just touching him during cleaning and I want him to stay? Well, if you want something simple from your horse, it is going to be easy for him to understand, and he's going to be much happier interacting with you. The horses that develop the biggest amounts of bad habits are the ones who are bored the most. Cleaning my horse not tied to anything in open space is not something that I do very often. And before trying it for the first time, I first practice it in a stall and make sure that my horse listens to me well. And by that I don't mean that he did it well once, but by that I mean that he's reliable for some time already. Then if I know that it's good, I can try it outside. But still, before I let my horse to stay untied in open space, I always check a few times that he will stay still in some larger closed spaces, such as a closed ring. I want my horse to stay still even when I walk away from him. I want him to keep standing still and wait for me to return. When you want your horse to listen to you, start with the easiest, which is for your horse to move away from your pressure while walking on the ground, and also for him to stay when you want him to stay still somewhere. When you want your horse to stay still when he's tied to something, it's not that difficult for him because he knows that he wouldn't be going far anyways. It is kind of similar in a stall where he still doesn't have much space. By consistently wanting your horse to do simple things well, you can over time achieve some more complex and more difficult things with your horse. I use the same approach while actually riding on my horse. Do you know what's one of the reasons why some riders have constant trouble with their horse? It is that they still didn't teach their horse to reliably perform the simple things. For example, they want their horse to listen to them in canter, while their horse doesn't even listen to them properly in trot. If your horse listens to you reliably from the ground, it doesn't mean that once you get in a saddle, everything is going to be amazing right from the beginning. However, it means that because your horse already got used to doing what you want on the ground, your progress while riding is going to be much quicker and also much easier. Also, the basic principles that I use teaching my horse something from the ground are basically the same as when I teach my horse something from the saddle. When my horse does something well, I reward him. When he does something badly, I correct him and repeat it. Your horse is going to understand what's going on and listen to you only when you are going to be treating him the same all the time. If you will be asking your horse to do mainly the things that he already knows and can perform, doesn't matter if it's when you are riding on him or just when you are taking care of him, he's going to easily understand what you want and he is going to get used to listening to you reliably. If you leave your horse to walk around as he pleases while you are cleaning him, he's not going to be walking exactly where you want. Once you get in a saddle, neither. Horses naturally follow a very simple hierarchy. It's something that they understand very well. They either listen to someone all the time or they want someone else to listen to them all the time. That's simply how horses behave in nature. Horses just don't understand it when sometimes you let them do what they want and then some other time you want them to listen to you. You are not really being nice to your horse by allowing him to do mistakes and behave badly. The only thing you achieve is to make a mess in his head. If you are not going to be consistent, then sometimes you will let your horse to do what he wants and then you will want him to listen. He will end up constantly trying whether he really has to listen to you or not. Now you can see how I teach my horses to pay attention to me and to what I want instead of just paying attention to their surroundings. It is important to be able to tell how much is your horse paying attention to you. When my horse pays full attention to me, for example, he keeps me in his sight with at least one of his eyes and quickly reacts after I ask for something. When my horse turns his ear towards me as soon as I ask for something, it means that he's paying sort of partial attention to me. When my horse doesn't react on my pressure and me asking him for something, not even by turning his ear to me, it of course means that he's completely ignoring me. When I want my horse to reliably listen to me, I need him to be paying as much attention to me as possible. When you are trying to get your horse to listen to you or to learn something new, but he's not paying attention to you, it's just like speaking to someone that is not listening to you and is just thinking about something completely different. Let's take a look again at how am I trying to maintain my horse's attention while I stand next to him. I can gain my horse's attention by simply touching him, for him to realize that I'm still next to him. If my horse doesn't react, I use more pressure until my horse turns his ear towards me. As soon as he turns his ear to me and starts paying attention to me, I reward him. And it is the same with lunging. While lunging, I also want my horse to quickly react and do what I want. And again, for that to happen, I need his full attention. If my horse turns his ear towards me, it means that he's paying attention to me. If you want your horse to constantly pay attention to you, it is not good to be doing one thing with him for too long. Just transition between gaits. You can change from trot, walk, trot, canter, and so on. Then change directions, and occasionally you can let your horse stop and let him stand still and rest for a bit. Like this, you can teach your horse to pay attention only to you much quicker, other than if you just let him walk around for 5 minutes in one direction. Now I'm going to show you what your horse should know before you start riding on him. It is basically similar to what I wanted my horse to be doing in his stall while I was cleaning him. I want my horse to back up in front of me easily, requiring my minimal efforts. I want my horse to be able to stay calm in one place when I want him to, and I also want my horse to react well on my pressure when I want him to move. I want my horse to be reacting well, and I want him to be moving away from the pressure with his back or just with his front legs. Over time, I want my horse to react on smaller and smaller amounts of pressure. I don't want to be wrestling with my horse trying to push him away. If my horse doesn't react, I use a whip, for example, to really make my horse do what I asked. Exactly as you are going to see it in the video. Everyone wants their horse to listen. However, not everyone thinks about how to structure the training and how to behave around their horse in various situations. If you know those things, it's going to be much easier for your horse to understand what you want and to listen to you. In order for your horse to listen to you, he first needs to understand what is it that you want. Here I teach my horse the same things as are the basis of the whole horse riding, which is for your horse to move away from your pressure. You urge your horse using the pressure of your legs, and you stop your horse pulling the reins, creating pressure in a bit. If you use the pressure of one leg only, you can do side pass and so on. If I start working with my horse from the ground, then it is going to be much easier for him to understand what I want than it would be from the saddle. It doesn't mean that when I sit on a horse he's already going to know everything. However, it means that it is going to be much easier for him to understand everything that I will be asking. I spend around 3 to 5 minutes with groundwork after lunging, and then it takes you no extra time to make sure your horse pays attention to you and listens to you while you clean him. However, these two things will have a huge impact on everything else in your training and your relationship with your horse. In this video, I am showing you how to gain and how to keep your horse's attention, how to allow your horse to understand you, and how to gain your horse's respect. Now you can see the level of respect your horse has towards you. Put some food in front of your horse. It can be an apple or whatever else you will find around. And let your horse stay around 10 to 15 seconds in front of it. If your horse stays at the same spot and waits for you to let him go, or depending on how difficult it is going to be to prevent your horse from eating it, you will see the level of respect your horse has towards you. However, only try this when you already feel that your horse is respecting you. Otherwise, discovering that you don't have any respect with your horse could even hurt. When you discover that you have respect with your horse, it's great, because you just accomplished a very important and for some people quite difficult task. If you discover that you need a bit more respect from your horse, I can tell you two things. First one is, don't blame your horse. And the second one is, you can definitely change it and gain your horse's respect. Now you even learned how in this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know how you liked the video and whether you have your horse's respect or not in the comments below the video. And I will see you in the next video that I will send you in just a few days.